Sophia was a young nurse, recently hired to take care of Livia, a famous violinist who had fallen into a coma after a tragic car accident. Sophia felt the weight of responsibility on her, aware that the task required much more than simple technical skills. It would require dedication, empathy, and an inner strength that she was not yet sure she possessed. Before continuing, subscribe to our channel and activate the bell. The villa where Livia lived was located on the edge of the city, surrounded by greenery and shrouded in an almost palpable silence. The well-kept garden seemed to tell the story of a life, once full of passion and movement, but now frozen in an indefinite time. The large windows let in daylight, which cast a melancholic shadow on the interior. Luca, Livia's older brother, greeted her. A tall, reserved man, his face showed signs of tiredness and worry. He explained Sophia's daily routine. Vital signs had to be monitored, physical therapy had to be done, and something that seemed strange to Sophia at first, Livia had to be spoken to. Although he was in a coma, Luca insisted that maintaining that verbal connection could make a difference. In the first few days, Sophia followed the routine scrupulously, but she couldn't shake off the feeling of helplessness. Livia seemed distant, trapped in a deep and inaccessible sleep. But Sophia didn't just perform the tasks mechanically. Every day, sitting next to the bed, she told Livia about her life, her childhood, and her hopes, as if, somehow, those words could cross the border between their world and the one Livia was trapped in. One evening, after a long day, Sophia decided to do something different. She sat down next to Livia's bed, took her hand, and, in the sweetest voice she could, said, "I know it's hard, but I'm here for you. I won't leave you. I promise I'll be by your side." It was then that something unexpected happened. She felt a light squeeze on her fingers. She stopped, incredulous, her heart beating wildly. She looked at Livia, hoping to see some visible sign, but the patient continued to remain still, with her eyes closed. Sophia thought she had imagined everything, but that gesture, however small, she could not get it out of her head. The next day, the feeling of that tightness did not leave her alone. She talked about it with Luca, who listened attentively. He too, while remaining skeptical, seemed to be looking for a glimmer of hope. In agreement with Sophia, she called Dr. Lentini, a neurologist, for a thorough evaluation. The doctor arrived the next day and ran a series of tests on Livia, examining every little sign carefully. Sophia watched from afar, holding her breath. When the doctor left the room, his face was serious, but not without a hint of optimism. "We can't be sure," he said, "but there are signs that might indicate a minimal conscious activity. We must continue to stimulate it." Those words rekindled a flame of hope in Sophia. She felt that somehow she was really reaching Livia. She was doing a good job, beyond her expectations. The following days brought with them small progress. Every now and then, Sophia noticed a slight movement of Livia's fingers or a deeper breath. These signals, imperceptible to others, were like secret messages to her, evidence that Livia was struggling to return. One night, while she was writing down her progress in her diary, she heard a faint whisper. She quickly approached the bed. "Livia, can you hear me?" she asked, her voice shaking. But there was no answer, and Sophia sat down again, her heart filled with frustration, but also with an unshakable hope. Despite moments of discouragement, Sophia never stopped believing. Every day, she played some simple tunes on the piano in the room, hoping that the music could awaken Livia's memories. One day, she decided to bring Livia's old violin, which had not been used for years, into the room. Without being a musician, she tried to strum a few notes. To her amazement, she noticed that Livia's fingers were moving, almost imperceptibly, as if they were trying to follow the rhythm of the music. Sophia's heart exploded with joy. For the first time, she felt that Livia was really reacting. When Luca entered the room and saw the scene, his eyes filled with tears. Maybe she really is coming back to us, he whispered, moved. From that moment, hope grew in all of them, and Sophia intensified her care with renewed dedication. Livia began to show signs of improvement, slowly but steadily. Every day brought small advances, a movement of the fingers, a deeper breath, a slight change in facial expression. Sophia wrote down every detail in her diary, knowing that every small sign could be the prelude to something bigger. One night, while reading next to Livia's bed, Sophia noticed that the patient's fingers were moving more coordinated than usual. She stopped, watching carefully, and realized that Livia was trying to form letters in the air. After a few seconds of amazement, she managed to decipher the word, danger. A shiver ran down her spine. What was Livia trying to say? She immediately ran to call Luca and alert Dr. Lentini to tell him what had happened. Although surprised, the doctor suggested that it could be a memory related to the accident, perhaps a trace of a trauma that Livia had not yet been able to process. But Sophia could not shake the sense of urgency that word had given her. She began to investigate Livia's life before the accident, rummaging through her old diaries. That's how she discovered the name of Marco, a former colleague of Livia's, often mentioned in the diaries with a tone that suggested concern. Driven by the will to protect Livia, Sophia tracked down Marco and confronted him. His face visibly tense, the man confessed that Livia, before the accident, had been investigating financial irregularities within the music school. She had discovered that someone was embezzling funds and was trying to gather evidence. After she started digging, the accident happened, Marco admitted, guilt evident in his gaze. Sophia returned to the villa and told Luca everything. They immediately understood the gravity of the situation and decided to increase security measures around Livia, fearing that the danger was still looming. But the danger was closer than they had imagined. That very night, Sophia heard suspicious noises coming from the study. Approaching on tiptoe, she saw a shadow rummaging through the documents. It was Marco. Sophia's heart raced. She immediately ran to Livia's room, locked the door, and called the police. While she was waiting for the police to arrive, she heard Marco's footsteps approaching the door. "Sophia, open up," he said in a low, threatening voice. She remained still, clutching Livia's hand. The footsteps stopped right in front of the door, and Marco tried to force it repeatedly. The police sirens sounded shortly after, and Marco, taken by surprise, fled down the corridor. He was caught before he could escape from the villa. Sophia, finally relieved, let out a liberating cry. In the days that followed, Marco was arrested and his illegal activities were exposed. Security around Livia was further tightened, and the patient slowly but surely continued to make progress. Sophia remained by her side every step of the way. About a year passed, and Livia picked up her violin again. Her fingers, still weak but incredibly precise, moved gracefully over the strings, creating a sweet and nostalgic melody. As the music filled the room, Sophia watched with eyes full of pride and emotion, knowing that the battle had been worth it. Livia, with a faint smile, played until the last note, and at that moment, Sophia understood that, despite the difficulties, hope had won. Both had survived that long night, and now finally, they could look to the future with new light. Did you like this story? Leave a comment below. Thanks for watching the video till the end, and see you next story.